1 week from today, this car and the Steel Beam Rally team have to be out in Winona, Minnesota for the Yucatan Winter Safari Rally. The car currently doesn't run or drive, and we have some issues with it, so let's take care of those in the next week and see if we can get this thing out in the snow. Of course, the main problem with this car is that it doesn't run, so let's take care of that first. If that doesn't work, then we can't do anything else on it. So we had some issues with losing spark earlier last year in August. The car broke down in northern Minnesota. So we ended up messing around with a lot. We couldn't get it done. I sent it to a shop and they ran up a bill of almost $1,000 to diagnose the issue. And they got it to run, thankfully, but it didn't run very well. And once it warmed up, it stopped running at all. So that's what I've got to work with. We were all in agreement, the shop and me and my dad were in agreement that the distributor is probably the culprit here. So we're going to, I got a spare distributor for 25 bucks. We're going to swap those out and see if it will run better. And if it does, then we'll know what to chase down. So first of all, let us run this thing for you and we'll show you kind of what it's doing, and we can go after that and pull the distributor off and take a look. Well, I start in the engine bay. Dad is going to replace these drain tubes that drain out of the channel in the rear window, and those are kind of plugged up right now. They kind of come out here. He has some small engine fuel line that we're going to install in that with little clips on it, and hopefully that will drain out of here properly instead of kind of dripping over the edge and stuff. And give me a little space to work up here because this engine bay is pretty small. Shop installed a set of spark plug wires that do not fit. But if it runs, I guess. Okay. To me, this distributor looks fine. It's a Bosch unit. I got it rebuilt. There is this little ground strap in here that I'm wondering if that might be an issue. I thought we checked that. I thought we checked all of this stuff. The shop was saying that there might be some play. I don't know if it's the up and down play they're nervous about or side to side. There's a slight amount of side to side play. So maybe one of those bushings is not quite what it should be. But we will take this over, set it aside for now. And here is our $25 replacement. Gentleman who sold this to me showed me a video of him testing this, putting it on a machine and showing that spark was coming out. So I have good reason to believe that it works. And when we look inside this, though, we have the broken ground strap here, and I'm not sure what to do with that. So I'm assuming they tested this way, and we'll see if it will work. So I'm going to install this vacuum canister. Just sticks in there, and the lever here goes over the E-clip, or under the E-clip. And I did check that it does make sounds and all that, so I think it's going to work. Put this thing together. So you got this out of the back of the car, and that's seam sealer that we put in to seal up the dust and sound.
It's so hard to work in there, you can't even get in there. So.
And did that break off in your hand?
This broke off at where it exited the car because I was trying to pull it from the top. So.
Wow.
Just pulled off from the bottom. It's fine.
So I'm looking at these, comparing that, man. They are actually the same exact part number, 0231167039. It has all the same markings on it. The difference is the condenser is a different style on this one than this. I like this condenser style a little bit because it is one piece, and this one takes a separate clip here to hold the plug in. So I might move that new condenser over here.
I'm really worried about this ground titler. I don't know if there's a way to swap out this plate.
I think the plate is pretty important.
Yeah, but the ground's got to be important too.
Well, they're multiplying. I pulled out the spare parts engine distributor, and I believe this is the original one for the car. You can see the condenser plug here goes in the top. It's kind of cut into the side of the top, and that the cap goes over that. And these ones have it cut into a hole in the side. So that's the difference. This style you can actually put Pertronics on if you want to. I was looking at this because of that ground strap inside, because we have a ground strap that's intact on this one, right on the bottom there. And this one, the ground strap is broken and kind of flying in the breeze. That's not ideal. I thought maybe this one would have one, but no, that one is missing altogether. It's just gone. And that's one of the main reasons that I didn't use this as a test distributor. I don't know if it works, and I don't want to go through and have to rebuild it to see if it works. So unfortunately, that seems like kind of what I'm doing to this one. I made the decision I'm going to put on this old Advance that came with it. I'm not going to worry about the updating the Advance. I'm just going to throw it on, probably throw this new condenser on it, because it is the same distributor. It should fit perfectly. And we will see if the engine runs on static timing first. All right, got her all assembled up. Got the points gap to 16 thou like in the book. Got some lubricam on the cam up there so it doesn't wear my points out immediately. And I think we are good to put this in the car. We also had that new condenser put on. It's looking pretty good. Let's plug off that vacuum port there and throw it in the car. Intake valve has been closed. Our timing mark is at TDC. Of course, being at top dead center and putting this distributor in the right position is two different issues. So you have to remember it's a V4 and the firing order is 1, 3, 4, 2. So it goes in a counterclockwise direction with the firing order. And on the distributor, it goes in a clockwise direction as it runs. So if you look at the kind of 4 posts on the top of the distributor cap, if you take the 2 on the passenger side and flip them side to side, that's which ones they go into in the head. And same here, if you take the 2 on this side and then you flip them side to side, that's the cylinders they go into there. So we know that since number 1 is on the front, then number 1 on the distributor will be on the back on the passenger side. If we point our advance unit in the right direction, we'll see there's a little tick on the distributor body here, and that indicates the number 1. It should get you pretty close. You'd have to put a timing light on it and get it dialed in for real. As we put it in, the distributor shaft is going to try to turn counterclockwise to mesh with the helical cut gears. And there's also that little oil pump driver in the bottom. It's going to want to line up with this, and that's a hex. So you can take a little 1/4 inch kind of hex screwdriver, and you can turn that if it doesn't go in the right way, the way you're expecting here. I'm going to try, see if it'll go in first and adjust if we need to. Not going in. Still no. If you get it close, it should kind of pop in, but you got to get it close first. There we go. Looks pretty good to me.
It's the old drain line. That's pretty flexible there, but geez.
Oh, there's a crack in it, isn't there? Right there, there's a crack.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez. We got the vacuum unhooked and we got the coil wire unhooked, so it's not going to start. I think you're supposed to time it at the cranking speed, right? So then it won't go too fast. We got this set to 7. Make sure it's in neutral. All right, you want to crank might have to turn the battery on behind you. Go ahead. Not getting any connection here. Try again. What's going on? Okay. Off it again. Why is this thing not working? Bump it. Still nothing.
You got power on the timing light.
I do?
Yeah, the lights comes on the side there.
Oh. Interesting. So maybe it's not picking up the pulses.
Maybe it doesn't, maybe the distributor's not grounded.
Hit it once more. Okay, shut it off. Battery off. I want to ask the guy if the ground strap was working when he sent it to me, because it does seem like a pretty glaring issue.
Yeah.
So we're here at a fellow rally house, and we have a 1973 Saab Sonett that's been sitting since what, 1987, Kathy?
Yeah, that was the last time it was registered. So.
And her dad bought it brand new in 1973. This is very cool. It's got a, I don't know if you can see that SCCA Land O'Lakes stickers on the rear window. But we have a chassis that's Minnesota rusted. It's been a Minnesota car its whole life, and we have an engine here that has a distributor. So I'm going to probably pull this distributor off. You might see this car in the future, but I don't think it's going to be on the road again because of the rust issues with this. Anyway, we'll pull this distributor off, and hopefully this will work well enough to give us some spark and get out and drive ours. It's Sunday. I have spent the entire day finalizing a road book for a TSD rally I'm running in a month, and I'm actually the rally master, so it's very fun. And my dad has decided that he is going to work on
The heater valve, because if we're going on a TSD next weekend, I'm not riding in this car with no heat.
Neither am I.
Okay.
Because last year, what happened? The heater valve was stuck on, so it was heat no matter what.
Well, it was below zero when we went down there, and there's so many gaps around the windows that the heater was blowing full blast, and we were still freezing. So
Yeah.
It did warm up to about 20 that day, and so it's comfortable when it's 20.
The caveat is that because the heater valve was stuck on, that first year that I was driving this car, the heater was on 100% of the time, no matter if it was 80 degrees or not. So I would very much like to have a working heater valve and not have to physically disconnect it and plug it off every summer. So you got this part here. I thought this thing was going to be a direct swap.
Well, it looks identical, but then I found out that this tab on the side of it here is a little bit different than the old one.
What does this tab do?
Well, the cable for the temperature goes in here and screws in.
Okay, so that opens and closes the valve.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so there was no way to hook that cable on here, and I really didn't feel like bending it and trying to get it in the right place.
Yeah.
The cable. So I said, well, I think I can swap those two over. So I got the new one off. I got the old one off. I put the old one on the new one, and then find out that the thing inside was backwards. So I got it all on and soldered, and it didn't work. So then I take it off again and do it again. But now it works.
Okay.
So I get you got to thread the thermocouple up into through a little hole up where the heater core is.
Yeah.
And it is not fun working in there because you can only get like one hand in there.
Yeah.
So I get this valve all the way in, and I get it through the firewall, and it is not fitting right. What is going on? Why is it so tight?
It normally fits in that hole in the firewall and hooks up to that elbow hose. So it's really hard to get to, right?
Yeah, and it comes through like this, and then this hose hooks on there, and then the one from the engine hooks on the other one. What I didn't realize was, on the new one, these were turned up. So when I put it in, these were both pointing up and they were hitting on this cross member here.
And they're supposed to hit sideways, but they were
supposed to go in like this, right? And they came in like this.
God.
So then I'm like going.
And this is for a Volvo 142, by the way. This new one is for a Volvo, and the old one apparently. I figured that Saab would just buy the same part that Volvo bought, but no.
So it is identical. They just spun this.
Okay.
So I had to bend these tabs up and pop this thing off.
Let's see the tabs here.
So there's holes
these tabs
here.
On the top.
No, I'd bend these up here first.
Okay, and take
pop
the box
this off.
Okay.
And then I had to bend these tabs straight up. They're just copper, so they were easy to bend up.
And you turn that 90 degrees?
And then I rotated 90 degrees, but of course it's not symmetrical, so I had to take a Dremel and cut more slots.
Are you kidding me?
And then I'm looking at this.
God.
I'm just not having a good day. So I'm looking at this. I got it over there. I put it all together. I put this thing on upside down. So I had to bend them back over and flip it over. It's not going well. I should just quit and do this another day, but I want to get it on. So,
yeah, understandable.
So now I got this on where it's supposed to be. So it'll come through the firewall like this.
Yeah.
And hook up to this hose. And then another hose off the engine. And then this is going back on here like this.
You haven't touched this, right? This is in the same orientation?
Yeah, that's the
okay. I'm learning the app Rabbit Rally, and it's a GPS-based road book and kind of timing system for TSD rallies. It's pretty slick when you get it running, but it's my first time being a rally master, so I've been having a frustrating day. We ran with my rally chairman. We ran for about 6 hours, updating every single route instruction for 6 hours. I don't know what the mileage is. It's between 150 miles, probably around 100 to 150 miles of instructions. So I think we both had a little bit of a frustrating day.
So why did you have to do that? Did you put them in wrong?
When we were turning from one road to the next, apparently the SCCA has standard for where you take the mileage for a corner. So I was taking the mileage at the start of the corner when you'd see the road sign, but what you're supposed to do is go through the corner and then line up the driver door to the stop sign, going out onto the intersection. So we measured all those incorrectly. We just went through and updated all the mileages while we were there.
How'd you figure out they were screwed up?
Well, we have clearance there to tell me what I'm doing wrong.
Oh, okay. All right, let me get the old valve. I want to make sure I'm only doing this one more time. All right, so I almost had it in wrong, but I looked at the old one to make sure.
So the only two things you really had to do were the little turny lever that holds onto the cable, and then you had to turn this thing 90, right?
Yep.
Everything else is the same?
Yep.
Awesome.
And it appears, other than this lever,
yeah, it
appears they're all the same parts.
Okay.
They just flipped them when they made them.
So you're going to knock these tabs over again? Is that what you're doing?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I started on this little project at 4 o'clock. What time is it now?
6:37.
Pop it off.
This is some insulation or something?
Yeah, that came on there. I'm going to leave it on there.
So what do you think this thing does? I don't understand what a thermocouple does.
Maybe the valve, when the engine's cold,
Yeah.
it keeps the valve
Shut?
just shut a little bit.
Okay.
And then once it warms up, it probably opens the valve full.
Okay. That would make
Does that
sense.
make sense?
Yeah.
So the biggest problem is there's a wiring harness in the way.
That's lovely.
Right here.
Back to distributors. This is the one that was in the car that wouldn't work. This is the one I got for 25 bucks, and the ground strap is broken. This is the one from the parts spare engine, and this is missing a bunch of stuff, including the ground. And this one is the one that we got in the spare, the green car. So we're going to see if this works. I did clean the points, and I checked the gap, and it seems to be within spec. Neutral, okay. Battery on.
Timing light's on.
Okay. Wipers off. Left side. There we go. Okay, go ahead. Oh.
Work?
It's not sending anything.
Got a rotor in?
Yeah. Oh. Rotor's not pushed down all the way, dipshit. Condenser wire's gotta be hooked up, doesn't it? There's a lot of things to remember here, and I'm kind of tired. I had to be turned on for 6 hours today. Do I just bump it 2 revs? It's not doing anything now. What's wrong? She's getting spark to the plugs.
Because you're getting that timing light to work.
I know we're getting spark on number 4 and number 1. I think were the 2 I tried, so. Unfortunately, it looks like I have to flip the distributor again. So we got this thing with some difficulty turned around. For some reason, so it's 180 degrees, and the oil pump drive is a hex. So you'd think you just turn it around and it would slot right in. No, we don't do that. So we're going to try this again, crank it a little bit and see if we're close. Oh, shit. So close. Oh, man. Crank it. Oh, slow down. That's where it should be. It's timed correctly. Same thing.
Why don't you listen up and hand time in?
It's just not working. I don't think it's a distributor. There's something else going on. We did a little experiment to see if it would work if I just cranked it, turned the distributor by hand to time it by ear. Sounds good, doesn't work. So now we're going to retime it to number 1 and crank it down. And then we're going to move the timing light to different cylinders to see if they're all getting spark through the wires. And at that point, if one of them's not, we can rectify that. If they all are, then we need to go, I think, work on the plugs. But yeah, we'll try first things first. I think we're closer than we've been since August. Okay. They're all firing, or they're all getting spark through these. All right, we found that the spark plugs were gapped to about 35 thou, and they're supposed to be at 25 thou. So we took them out, blow torched them, just did a little bit of 600 grit to clean out the contact a little bit, put them back in, and then put the plug wires back on. So we're gonna see if this thing runs now. You wanna go for it? Is it in neutral? All right. Sounds like it's missing one, isn't it? Well, this is not a good sign. She cut out just like at the rally. Guess we'll go see what's going on. Poor car looks so sad. So sad, honey. Are you so sad? We'll figure you out, honey. I was really hoping to drive this thing to work tomorrow, but I don't think that's going to happen, not if it's doing this. I'm going to have to do a couple more test drives to make sure it's performing right and reliably. Alright, this is actually awesome news. I was out driving on the test drive and it's running great, it's ripping, I'm having really a lot of fun with this thing, and then all of a sudden stops running, just like it did in August. So now we have a perfect before and after. We tested things, we know how it looked like before. Now we can go back and we can test this thing now that it's not running and actually see if anything changed. So what do you want to do? You wanted to test the coil first to see if we're getting ignition at all.
Yes.
Number 1 cylinder clutch. Okay. Try other one. We're gonna try the other two just to be thorough.
Test run the coil again.
You getting some?
Yeah.
Really? What we found out is it gets power to the coil. The coil sparks, so the points are coming in and out. But for some reason, even with this distributor, we've tried 3 different distributors now, and this one has the same issue where the spark will go into the distributor but not out.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be able to sleep tonight if I don't try this. It's got, the points work, the distributor works, the coil works, the ignition switch works. It's got to be cap and rotor, and wouldn't you know, I pulled an 80s rotor off that car, that green car. So let us swap the rotor over and we'll do a back-to-back test on whether the rotor is the problem. This rotor was on this distributor when I pulled it. That's gotta be it. Oh my God. It works. It runs. It runs great. What the hell? Back to back. Let's put the old rotor back on and do an ABA test on this to make sure that that really is the big issue. This is what the rotor that it was running with when it quit. Now let's go back to the 80s rotor. Ladies and gentlemen, I think we figured it out. Back in August, I was driving with a rotor, this rotor or rotor identical to it because I've been buying Eklund parts from Napa, and the car shut off. And I think what happened is the rotor failed. And I don't know how the rotor failed. I don't know how rotors fail, but somehow it failed. When we were cranking it, I think we fouled the plugs. When the plugs got fouled, any work we did to this was of no use because the spark plugs are fouled. When I was changing cap and rotors and spark plugs, I don't think I did that all at the same time last fall. If I would have done it all at the same time and gotten a quality or a better quality rotor, I think it might have worked. But the common denominator here is that when the spark plugs are fouled, it doesn't run. And then when I switch back and forth between this rotor and an 80s rotor, it does run on the 80s rotor. It does not run on this one, as long as the spark plugs are clean. Anyway, I think that's enough hair pulling for tonight. I think I've narrowed down that this is definitely an issue. I'm going to return this to get my money back because I'm pissed off at this thing. I was super happy last night to see that this thing ran. and ran pretty well. So with the new rotor, I'm going to take it for another test drive, but first I want to change the oil. So let's drop that out and see what it looks like. Of course, I wouldn't be so worried about this, but we've been cranking this thing over a lot, and that can get some fuel and oil. So best to start anew, and it's also, I think, time for an oil change anyway. It does kind of smell like gas. Of course, I'm using a Napa Gold 1515 filter, which fits all my Ford engines. But it's pretty much impossible to get out of there, so we're gonna have to struggle a little bit. I will spare you the pain, but no, these things will fit a Sonett. You just have to kind of push the coolant hoses out of the way to actually squeeze them out of there. Last May, I pulled the engine out of this and I put in Amsoil Z-Rod 1040. I like it. I'm gonna keep going with it. It's a full synthetic zinc classic car oil. I think they guarantee it for like 5,000 miles or 2 years. I think it's time to take this thing for a test drive. It is dark out, unfortunately, so we can't get that good of a video of anything, but hoping that everything's gonna go okay and we can drive around for a couple miles, just do a couple loops around the neighborhood and come back in, make sure it's kind of ready to drive to work tomorrow. And I need to do as many shakedowns as I can this week before the big rally, so we're not down in Winona getting stuck, because that would really suck. It'd be kind of like Ojibwe all over again. So let's go. I freaking love this car. It's running so well, and it has like way less than 100 horsepower, but it gives that with such exuberant gusto that it's just a blast. I love it. So I think I'm gonna drive this thing to work tomorrow. It seems like it's running really well, and later this week I can change that distributor out for the one I had rebuilt, so we have a good vacuum advance. We know that's working correctly, and then otherwise, yeah, it's really good. I think that I could go on a road trip just like this and it would probably be fine, but I want to button up a few things more before we go on that rally. Well, I drove it to work today and no news is good news, so we're going to work on that heater valve, get that hooked up so I have heat in the car. So we got to drain the coolant first, and I think my dad's going to work on hooking up the tachometer and all that ignition wiring that the shop unhooked when they were trying to diagnose things was actually the rotor. Thankfully able to throw a rubber hose on there. That's draining out pretty quick now. Well, not quick. Quick as the petcock will allow. Dad's over here working on this wiring. So I ran 2 wires in from the coil, and apparently the shop cut one off. So I guess he's gonna put a spade back onto that one. It's just small stuff today. Okay, we just filled it with coolant, and we're running the engine to see if we can get it to circulate around a little bit. And we just got the cutoff switch wired up here off the coil. Here's gonna flip the switch. Oh, it works. Works like a charm. And it worked on startup too. So what I've been doing here is I turned the heater on all the way hot so we can circulate through here. We also have a drain petcock here to bleed out of this, but I don't think we're going to do that tonight. We're both pretty tired tonight. I'm pretty worn out. So we're going to go in and call it a night for tonight. It's Wednesday night, and I'm feeling pretty good about the car for Saturday, but there are still a couple things I need to do. Dad's also doing some stuff over here, so don't mind him. He's actually installing a, what was it?
Heat exchanger.
Heat exchanger to control the humidity in here. I know the car runs pretty well, but I'm going to update this and take the parts distributor out because I don't think the vacuum advance is working very well. Well, it's working, but it's not quite dialed in. I'm gonna put in the Mark Ashcraft rebuilt distributor. I thought it was bad. It's not bad. It's the rotor, I believe. So we're gonna swap that over and then we'll try other stuff. I got the rebuilt distributor put back in with a new condenser on it, so that is ready to be timed up with the engine. But I'm gonna wait for my dad to get done with his little heat exchanger thing before we do that. In the meantime, I want to replace some of these spark plug wires that the shop put in because I don't like how they fit. You might be able to see down there the spark plug wire actually is pushed up against the edge of the alternator, which is not ideal for a few reasons. We're gonna put this one back on that I made. It's got the 90-degree on the one end and the regular, you know, cap one on that end. So we will put this in. We'll compare them actually here. So here's our one that I made custom for the job on the top, and then if we take it down, it's a little bit shorter, and it's got that 90 degree. So that's what you want for the number one. All the other ones can be the normal, and if you cut them the right size. And I actually had to custom make my plug wire set because I could not find any available for a reasonable price, and thought that would be a fun thing to do. So it's not too hard, just crimping is a little tricky sometimes. So we'll put that in and we'll time this thing and we'll move on to something else. Go for it. Are you kidding me?
You gotta be 180 off.
Why? It's the same distributor. How can I take one distributor out, the same part number, replace it with the same distributor, the same part number, everything, put it in, and it's 180 off? You can't even see the mark on there. All right, so I got the distributor put 180 around, made sure the vacuum advance is unplugged so we get an accurate reading, and we're going to try this again. I have no idea. I went up to like 15 degrees to 0 and I don't know where it is.
Is there a possibility it could be the distributor?
I'm getting pretty tired of doing this stuff, so I'd like to just get the car running for now. We can run it out, and I can probably hopefully get a distributor situation figured out before I go ice racing. Did I just say that? That was supposed to be a secret. We put the parts distributor in the same orientation as the rebuilt one, and I just lined it up as best I could, put it on, and it was running about 10 degrees advance. I just took it to 7. It ran great. So there's something weird about the Ashcraft distributor. I'll have to either get a distributor shop to test it and see what's going on with it, or maybe send it back to Mark. I don't know. It's weird. I did rotor testing. The rotor obviously is bad on the Napa rotor I was using, but I don't think that's the end of the story. So we're gonna run with this one for now. I wonder if I need to adjust that a little bit. Seems like it's... Sounds like the timing is a little bit retarded. Yeah, it's running right. I think what happens is I put my old spark plug wires back on, and I think one of them's probably missing.
Oh.
I think that makes more sense than the timing, because the timing's on. All right, we saved number 1 because I have that nice elbow in there that helps it fit on easier, but we replaced all the other plug wires. The coil wire has also not been replaced. So let's try it now. We still got that ticking noise, you know. An exhaust leak can sound like a valve train, so I'm not too worried about it. I know I did kind of a sketchy job on the exhaust because I'm not a very good exhaust fabricator. We got this thing going. That goes on the end here. We got this little vacuum plug that I put on the end. That's just to protect it a little bit. I also have a little cap over the bleeder for the clutch. And that's a brake bleeder cap, just to protect those. Rev it up a little bit. The next thing I want to fix has been bugging me for quite a while now. It's actually the clutch linkage. It's actually the clutch release lever, and that actuates the throw-up bearing and pushes your clutch in and out. Over here we have the throw-up bearing, and that is the bearing that touches the pressure plate and pushes on it, so that kind of rides on the pressure plate. Here's our lever that connects to our slave cylinder, and so that pushes in, pivots off this end, and it pushes this in and out. So if you imagine this staying in place, this moving, let's say 2 units, then this would move 1 unit. So it gives you a little more leverage on that, on the pressure plate. So I think that we might be able to grease these pivots here. I'm not sure if we're going to be able to get anything into that. Might be something worth trying. I was over here brainstorming ways that I could get grease into that little tiny pivot, and what came into my mind was like I had this little tiny brush. It's almost like a little makeup brush, and it's about this long, and I thought I might be able to put a little bit of grease on it, and nah, couldn't find that. So I remembered when I was doing the Corvair wheel bearings, I had to buy this ridiculous needle greaser. It's like a hypodermic needle on the end of a grease thing. It just clicks in with has a little zerk in the fitting here. So you just click it into your grease gun and you can shoot grease into tiny little crevices. So it's probably a 2-person job to hold this and aim that and squeeze it. We're gonna try to get this thing in there and see if that'll clear it up. We should also be able to get in a little bit sideways and not just straight down, and maybe get grease into the other pivots instead of just the one. Well, if I turn it, I can get the hex in there. Give her just a small pump and see what happens. Half a pump. See if this thing actually worked. I guess not. Got the slave cylinder out here. It's just one bolt on the end, so pretty easy. Now I'm looking at the thing the slave cylinder kind of sits in. There's this little pin, and the pin sits in a bit of a yoke here. So we're gonna see if we can get this pin off the top. I don't know if you can see that. Get the pin off the top and pull this thing out, and then we can grease that. It's got some play too. It could probably use some attention. Well, I've lubricated this the best I can. I've lubricated this the best I can. This I can't get to, and this I can't get to. So I think it's either this one or this. Probably the big one in the side. So I'm gonna have to live with it until I pull the engine out again. So what do we have left here? The clutch, I couldn't get it to work. I'm not going to be able to, I was going to put some spare rear springs in to see if it would ride a little higher. That's not going to work. We've got the Rabbit mounted and tablet will be fine. I got to update the maintenance log tonight. We got to go through all the stuff in the trunk and make sure we have the full set of spares and tools and liquids and all that stuff. And then tomorrow morning I will check the fluids again. We already know that the engine oil is perfect and the coolant is very close. That's about it for now. I'm going to drive it to work tomorrow. It's going to be the second time this week. Don't want to put too many miles on in the salt, but I got to shake this thing down before we go on the rally. In case anything else pops up tomorrow, I want to be able to take care of it instead of being stranded a couple hundred miles from home. So let's get that done. Should be okay, and we'll see you tomorrow when we, tomorrow's Friday. Rally's on Saturday. It's coming down to it, so gotta get this thing done. All right, the drive to work and back went pretty well. I took it on some back roads and really tried it out. Seems like it's gonna work. There's one little thing, it seems like it's kind of lagging, like it doesn't have quite enough power, so I'm gonna try to bump that up, the initial timing from 7 to 8 degrees and see if it'll get that power back that I had on Tuesday. Otherwise, we're going to double check a few things, double check my fluids, and we'll double check the tire pressure and all that stuff, go through what engine oil, transmission, coolant, brake, and the clutch fluids, get all those done. We're going to clean the car off because it's really dirty. I don't know if you can see. I'm just going to work today. Well, I think that looks a lot cleaner. Not quite shiny, but oh shoot, I forgot that. I'll have to do that. Otherwise, the rest of the car is looking a lot better. I think we're going to go in now and we will pack up the spares kit and the tools kit tomorrow morning before we leave. Got to be there around 10 o'clock, so be leaving around 8 o'clock and we'll catch up then. See ya. We are down here. Start time is in, I can't read my phone, but it's like 5 or 10 minutes. Everything's working pretty well. The car's a little bit low on power and there's a little bit of a miss sometimes at partial throttle, but I think we're gonna make it. I'm going to drive as well as I can, and if it becomes an issue, we'll have to drop out, but I am anticipating being able to drive the whole thing and get home. So good news, we have a pretty decent turnout here. I think we have a dozen entries, which is pretty awesome to see. And otherwise, thank you to my dad to helping me do this, because having two people really helps, and it's super awesome to have the support. The other thing that I want to say is, if you've been following the channel for a while, I recently got monetized. Thank you very much for being a part of this. It's really been awesome, and I've made over $5 now, so really kicking it up a notch here. Anyway, thank you for watching. Subscribe if you haven't, and press on. All right, for the credit sequence, I got a little thing in the mail I want to show you guys. What could that be? Interesting.
I needed a new intake manifold.
Why would I need that?
It's cold.
Oh, that's a Weber 34 ICH carburetor. Very nice. Oh, yeah, I'm going to a Weber, so should be fun.
It looks a lot higher than the other one.
Yeah. Anyway, it's a one barrel still. For some reason I thought I was getting a 2-barrel, but yes, 34 ICH is a 1-barrel. The 3236 I think is the one that people use for a 2-barrel. So that should hopefully, once I get it restored, should solve my fuel leak up by on the carb.
Is that an electric choke?
Oh, looks like it is. It might run a little better when it's cold if I can get that rebuilt right. So we will update this with another video, so keep on watching and we'll get to that. As a second epilogue, I just got another thing in the mail, one of the issues that I had, we got lost on one of the later stages, and it was really dark out. Should have taken a left, and we went straight, and I had to back up, and I could not see anything behind me. So I reached out to some people in the rally community, and one gentleman offered me some backup lights. These are genuine vintage CBA 3076, I think. So this, I don't know if it goes up or down, but this should be a usable backup light that it can actually illuminate behind me, which is pretty cool. It says made in France on the back. That's awesome. We got not only that, but we got a rear fog lamp as well. It's the same one. So hopefully between the two I can find a reflector that will work, and this bracket's broken. So be able to combine two into one and have a backup light, because we don't really use these fog lamps around here. We don't have much fog in this area. So we got that, and then that was super cheap. He gave it to me for 20 bucks plus shipping, so pretty happy with that, because if you look up driving lights on eBay, they will add the word Ferrari into the description, and the price will go up to like $800. So here's a spare rotor, Bosch rotor. So hopefully I can throw that on and it'll work, and I won't have to depend on finding parts cars with 80s parts on them. Anyway, that's all. Thanks. Press on.